Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta looks to set the record straight about one of the state's most pressing issues, the opioid crisis. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. He was in San Diego today to talk about regional efforts to combat fentanyl overdoses. KPBS reporter Gustavo Solis says Bonta addressed a major misconception about drug smuggling.
It's an old narrative that keeps gaining power. Illegal immigration is the driving force behind drug smuggling. Many migrants crossing in remote parts of the southern border bring drugs like fentanyl into the country. California Attorney General Rob Bonta says that is not the case.
I think that conflation is wrong, and I think the data does not bear that conflation out.
He points out that U.S. citizens are responsible for the vast majority of drug smuggling, and they mainly do it through legal border crossings.
Most of the trafficking and the buyers of fentanyl are American citizens. And, you know, when you want to talk about immigration, California, America, is a state and a nation of immigrants. And my mom's an immigrant. I immigrated here when I was 2 months old. And immigrants have made our state great and our country strong.
Bonta made these comments during a visit to the San Diego border region to highlight local efforts to combat fentanyl overdoses. San Diego District Attorney Summer Stephan joined Bonta at the offices of the San Diego and Imperial Counties High Intensity Drug Trafficking Areas Program, or HIDTA for short. Stephan called for tougher penalties for drug dealers whose products end up causing an overdose, and for more preventative measures.
And we need to continue to invest in prevention and also in protection by having more Narcan available to save lives.
Mirroring a nationwide trend, fentanyl overdoses in San Diego skyrocketed from 154 in 2019 to 814 in 2021. Since then, overdose deaths have remained around 800 annually. The HIDTA office funds federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies in the region. David King is the director of the office.
We've somewhat steadied the overdose death rate. Still over 800 is unacceptable. That is 2 a day. 2 people that won't be there at the dinner table.
King says that the way to bring that number down is for public health and law enforcement agencies to work together on prevention. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
A one-stop shop for flood victims opened in San Diego today to help get families what they need to rebuild. The warehouse provided by the county is run by Global Empowerment Mission, or GEM, and other partner organizations. Inside is over $1 million worth of supplies from corporate partners and donors. Victims can receive those supplies through case managers.
We want to shed some love and care and show them they're not forgotten. We want to be able to get them and their families back into normalcy.
Flood survivors that need a case manager can connect with one at one of the disaster recovery centers, or they can call the number that you see on your screen, 619-673-8780. And if you'd like to donate, you can find the link on our website, kpbs.org/weather.
Well, with an offshore flow, albeit a little weaker on Tuesday, we'll continue to experience sunshine over the course of the next few days with a noticeable warming trend. But there are some changes coming up as we work our way down the road that can impact temperatures, cloud coverage, and inevitably some weekend wet weather is back in the cards. So we'll talk about the next round of wet weather and how our temperatures look over the next several days, all coming up.
Henry Foster III took the oath of office today to become San Diego's new District 4 council member. He represents southeast neighborhoods stretching from Oak Park to Paradise Hills and Mountain View to Skyline. KPBS reporter Katie Heisen attended the first city council meeting this year with 9 members.
I, Henry L. Foster III, do solemnly swear.
When Monica Montgomery Stepp took the county supervisor seat in December, it left City Council District 4 without representation. Then, a January storm overwhelmed their drainage system and flooded neighborhoods. Foster says his first focus is the ongoing recovery.
We still have some community members that are hurting, and we need to make sure that we do what we need to do to get them through the recovery process, and I'm committed to do that.
District 4 was formerly redlined. Today, it has a higher concentration of poverty and Black and Latino residents. Foster says the flood highlights the city's history of underinvestment in the district.
For too long, certain neighborhoods in our city have been overlooked and underserved. Generations have passed without adequate investment in their infrastructure, economic opportunities, and quality of life. And we will change that practice. I promise that.
The council is currently deciding the city budget for next year, with a final vote in June. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
The city of Del Mar is looking for ways to expand affordable housing, and one direction they're exploring is the state-owned fairgrounds. Tomorrow, city and fairground officials will ask for support from the County Board of Supervisors to find out if affordable housing is even feasible on the grounds. They already have the support from one supervisor, Tara Lawson-Reamer.
The City of Del Mar and the board of the Fairgrounds Board have entered into this agreement, but they have a long way to go, and they are probably going to encounter some obstacles. And I want to make sure that our county government is 110% behind them every step of the way, whatever they need with the Coastal Commission, with anything at the state, with investments, that we're going to be fighting to make sure that these units get built, they get built as quickly as possible, and they get built in a way that really centers the needs of families in our region.
It will be a 2-year process to find out where and how many units can be built on site. Officials estimate a minimum of 61 units built by 2030. Well, tax day is a week away, and if you haven't filed your 2023 taxes yet, time is running out. Jen Sullivan breaks down what those last-minute filers need to file on time and avoid any penalties.
Time is running out to file your 2023 taxes. The deadline is Monday, April 15th. Everyone's taxes look different, but the most common documents you'll likely need to file are a W-2. That's your official wage and tax statement, which you should have received from your employer. A 1099, which are given by independent contractors to people like business owners, or if you've earned any interest from stocks or investments and or received any dividends. And a 1098 form, if you have a mortgage or student loan interest. The IRS offers tools to help you navigate through the filing process, and tax software like TurboTax and H&R Block can help you as well.
It's going to guide you through and make those calculations.
While it seems like a lengthy process, it can help deliver you a nice return this year. According to the IRS, the average direct deposit return is $3,209.
The fastest way to get your refund is to electronically file and to receive that refund through a direct deposit.
Experts also say the worst thing you could do is not file at all.
One of those mistakes that we see people make is they just get scared. And so then they put it aside and they say, no, I don't want to deal with it at all, which is about the worst thing you could do.
And if you really need more time, anyone can file for an extension, but you must do that by April 15th. That will give you until October 15th to file. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
A Southwest flight was in air only minutes before the pilot had to declare an emergency. Shortly after takeoff, passengers started seeing part of the plane break away. Lori Aguirre has more on how the terrifying incident unfolded.
There's a lot of, but not what you want to hear when you've just taken off in an airplane, and not what you want to see. The cover flying off the engine. This was on a Southwest Airlines jet shortly after takeoff from Denver Sunday.
It's only by the grace of God that he got the message. He was calm, kept everybody else calm, and we landed safely.
High praise for the pilot who circled back to Denver safely for an emergency landing. Southwest apologized to passengers for the delay in a statement, adding that safety is their highest priority and their maintenance teams are reviewing the aircraft. The FAA is also investigating how the engine's cover, called a cowling, came loose and hit the wing flap.
There are 3 cowling latches that hold that cowling in place. So it appears that either one of those was not left latched properly or the mechanical piece itself failed.
Aviation safety analyst David Susi says a part like that should undergo at least 3 visual checks pre-flight, the first 2 conducted by ground crew maintenance.
But the last line of defense is the pre-flight inspection. The pilot is supposed to do the walk around before each flight and check those latches.
The investigation into the exact cause continues. The passengers aboard the Denver flight were all eventually rerouted to their destination of Houston, with quite a story to tell.
It was a little spicy, but we're all okay.
I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
The United States will defend itself if its assets are attacked by Iran. That is the latest message out of Washington since U.S. officials there said that they believe such a strike is inevitable and could happen as soon as this week. This comes after Israel's strike on the Iranian consulate in Syria last week. Israel says it's moving into an offensive phase along its border with Lebanon. It's been exchanging fire with Iran-backed Hezbollah forces that are in that country.
Syria and, to same extent, Lebanon are both launching points for Iranian attacks against Israel. Lebanese people do not want to see an expanded war because the last time Hezbollah and Israel went to war, it was really bad for the Lebanese people.
And the Biden administration says if Iran attacks Israel directly, it almost guarantees a regional conflict. The amphibious assault ship USS Boxer deployed last week for the first time since 2019. KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer has more on what it took to get here and what makes this deployment important.
It took more than a year in the yards and almost 2 more in repairs and maintenance to get the Boxer back at sea and on mission. The Boxer's an amphibious assault ship similar to the USS Tripoli docked here at Naval Base San Diego. The ships deploy in amphibious squadrons as part of Marine expeditionary units.
Boxer's absence from the fleet coincided with the loss of its sister ship, the USS Bonham Richard, which was destroyed by fire in 2020. Brad Martin is a retired Navy captain who once commanded an amphibious squadron. Now a senior policy researcher at the RAND Corporation, Martin says Boxer's delays will be felt by other ships for years.
So there is a cumulative effect, because what happens is that one ship stays out longer, one strike group stays out longer, the ships are delayed getting into maintenance. That just creates a daisy chain. It just makes it harder and harder to catch up with.
Last month, KPBS first reported that a Navy investigation found several causes to delays on the Boxer. Substandard subcontractors, poor training, and a toxic command climate all played a part. But Martin says even had things gone smoothly, the Navy still has a major problem.
It's just not possible to take ships that are as old as the Boxer is, for example, run it, have it in service for decades, and then expect that you aren't going to encounter some long-term problems as it's reused.
He says the Navy just needs more ships.
If presence in the Western Pacific and presence in the Mediterranean, presence in the Middle East, and presence everywhere else that's valuable to have naval presence is going to be maintained, the force needs to be bigger. Need more ships.
For years, the Navy and Marine Corps have been at odds over the number of amphibious ships needed. The Marines say more, the Navy fewer. According to the Navy's 2025 budget request, that gap isn't going anywhere. Boxer's deployment is also notable as it's the first to include the Corps' new amphibious combat vehicle. The old amphibs were pulled from the water after 8 Marines and a sailor were killed when theirs sank near San Clemente Island in 2020. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
Former President Trump offered his clearest stance yet on one of the country's most contentious political issues, abortion. In a social media video, Trump says abortion rights should be left to the states. Michael Yoshida has this look at how the declaration is being received on both sides of the aisle.
We have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint.
In a video posted to his Truth Social account, former President Donald Trump seeming to punt on the issue of abortion, saying after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, abortion rights should now be left to the states.
Many states will be different. Many will have a different number of weeks, or some will have more conservative than others, and that's what they will be. At the end of the day, this is all about the will of the people.
Trump did not indicate the number of weeks during a pregnancy at which he thinks it would be appropriate to ban an abortion, but he did reiterate his support for certain exceptions, such as victims of rape and incest or when a mother's life is in danger. President Joe Biden attacking Trump's abortion message, accusing the former president of lying and saying in part, Trump is scrambling. He's worried that since he's the one responsible for overturning Roe, the voters will hold him accountable in 2024. Well, I have news for Donald. They will. Trump's video also getting immediate backlash from the leading anti-abortion group Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, writing in part, "We are deeply disappointed in President Trump's position. Unborn children and their mothers deserve national protections and national advocacy." Democrats also criticizing Trump's latest attempt to clarify his stance.
He shouldn't duck this issue. This is an important one for the American public.
After appointing 3 conservatives to the Supreme Court, Democrats have tried to tie Trump to a wave of anti-abortion laws passed since Roe was overturned in 2022. In Washington, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
Meanwhile, President Biden announced new plans to cancel student loan debt. The announcement was made during a visit to Wisconsin today. According to the White House, nearly 70% of borrowers will see their debt either lessened or canceled altogether. This is the president's second attempt to cancel student loans. The U.S. Supreme Court struck it down the last time. The plans will still have to be finalized and withstand any legal hurdles. There aren't enough spots in child care facilities for every kid in San Diego. Some providers would like to help with that by expanding their businesses, but it isn't easy. As part of the special KPBS series, Where's My Village, reporter Tanya Thorne looks at the roadblocks.
Like, what do you think we're rolling in dough? This is daycare, not like we're not starting a crazy business. We're not going to be making a bunch of money. We're not going to have a huge profit because we're not ripping off families with tuition. And we could. Some childcares do that, but we're not. That's not our vibe. We're trying to provide accessible childcare, but also quality.
Sarah Song and Noelani Acosta spend a large amount of their day surrounded by kids.
Our program is like an outdoor-based program, so we let the children explore and play outside all day, and then they just go inside for nap time.
They are home childcare providers. Their business is at Sarah's house in National City. They can only take 12 kids, and they'd like to provide care to more.
We're open from 6 to 6, so very long hours, especially since I don't have kids of my own. So I'm literally like just taking care of kids for 12 hours.
Sarah has a long wait list of families looking for care. If they can expand, they could bring in more staff and make a livable wage. But expanding has been a lot harder than they expected.
We've talked to a few owners of properties. They're like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. We're not going to do a daycare facility because that's just a lot of work.
But Sarah says it's work that someone needs to do. She wants to expand in her neighborhood in National City. The rejections are really frustrating.
Yes, but sir, you're contributing here to the problem. Someone has to put in the work to have this accessible to people. So that's the biggest hurdle. They're just like, yeah, no, it's going to be too hard. Childcare has a lot of requirements. Well, yes, because to keep kids safe.
Childcare licensing has strict rules, so they could come across the perfect property. But before signing a lease, things like sprinklers need to be brought up to code. Those things cost money and take time.
Well, we don't have thousands of dollars to just be like, well, it might work out. Let me give you 3 months rent and we'll see if it works out.
So while providers struggle to expand, parents struggle to find care. Miren Algori has been a childcare provider for 20 plus years.
The cost of living has increased. Now we see more parents having to rejoin or join the workforce right after having their baby. So we get countless phone calls and emails from parents needing childcare services.
Miren says the childcare workforce is shrinking.
It's not growing because no one wants to join a workforce that does not pay a livable wage.
And if nothing is done to support the ones still standing, that's a disaster for parents.
And I would love for the community to really, and for the elected officials to really come together and look into this issue that is so crucial because it hinders the economy, the local economy, the state economy.
Childcare, sometimes we call it a root cause issue because it is part of course, parents being able to work, and working parents are a core part of the workforce for our economy.
Laura Cohn is the Vice President of Care and Education at Mission Driven Finance.
It's a core social justice issue because the providers of care in the United States have been undersupported and often are providing care out of a sense of mission and commitment, but at a compensation level that isn't equal to the important role that they're playing.
Laura's firm invests money in ways that have social impact. One focus is childcare. Investors give them money to buy sites that are good for childcare. It took more than a year, but finally some success.
Our first house is in Lemon Grove. We're also looking at Southeast San Diego, Spring Valley, La Mesa.
The Lemon Grove house is only for one provider. Of course, many other providers are still looking.
Well, both of us grew up poor. So we want it accessible for people like us who live down here.
Sarah and Noelani are still looking for a bigger spot in their neighborhood.
So we want to make sure there's an option that's more similar to what are available up northern San Diego, or central and north San Diego, down here in the south.
But with very little support, providers like Sarah and Noelani are left with very few options and a very long wait list of parents looking for care.
And that was Tanya Thorne reporting. We will have a new episode next Monday. You can also stream the entire series right now. Just go to the kpbs.org/Where's My Village.
Offshore flow means it will be a quiet night for tonight. Temperatures dropping down into the upper 40s to right around 50 degrees. And as we venture our way into tomorrow, not looking overly active and a little bit warmer. So we're going to be tapping into the upper 70s here toward Ramona, Oceanside 73, San Diego topping out at 72 degrees, and again mid 80s here. Look at that, Borrego Springs, Mount Laguna over the higher terrain topping out just above the 50-degree mark. Now, as we go throughout the next several hours, not to backtrack, there are still some wind advisories here as we go throughout the evening time frame, primarily off to the north, and that again just goes to show the offshore flow. The offshore flow drives the warmth all the way to the coastline. And look at this. This is future radar and satellite. I'm going to put this into motion, but you barely see anything, where normally you would see some cloud coverage here hanging around the coast. With the offshore wind, that drying effect here going to lead to ample amounts of sunshine. You can see it here. Here's a different way to depict it. There's high pressure. You see the clockwise flow of winds around. There goes the dry air all the way toward the shoreline, and that'll keep our temperatures up. Right into Wednesday, in fact, you notice a lot of hues of orange where the precipitation is hundreds of miles off to our north and east. So temperature-wise here into the 70s out toward the coast. Look at all that sunshine here as we go into Thursday. Some shower chances returning, though, by the weekend. And notice how temperatures at that point starting to fall back down into the 60s. Well, here's the warmth over the inland valleys. Look at this, upper 70s, close to 80. Beautiful through Thursday, but cooler into the weekend, along with some showers around into the mountainous locations, mid-50s. It will still be a little on the cool side, but some sunshine, and then turning brisk and colder by the time we head our way into Saturday. Bring on the 90s here toward the deserts, but a cooling trend as well with some shower chances by Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic.
Did you see it? A total solar eclipse left a swath of shadow across North America today, while some parts of the country experienced the totality of the moon blocking the sun. Here in San Diego County, it was a partial eclipse. KPBS education reporter MG Perez was at the viewing party that created a community for the once-in-a-generation event.
I see it. Yeah. There was a lot to see in the skies over the Fleet Science Center in Balboa Park, where morning turned into afternoon, and everyone wanted to have a look at the Peekaboo astronomical event happening before their very eyes.
And it's going to come up here, cast a shadow across the U.S.
The moon blocks the sunlight.
5.5-year-old Maxwell Kagan considers himself a kindergarten astronomer, and he shared this special moment with his grandma Carver.
He loves any exploration of space. He can tell you about where all the planets are, right, and how far they are from the sun.
It looks like the moon is passing the sun.
This was a party for everyone who came to experience the eclipse that featured about 60 to 65% of the moon covering the sun at its most intense. For Adam Cruz, it was a perfect opportunity for him and his partner.
I made sure that the eclipse was today just for her.
The picture-perfect moment happened to come on Tony Saya's 32nd birthday. She's an Aries, by the way.
I'm all fire all the time, lots of energy, and so this is very typical for me. It feels like my life is an eclipse every day.
A solar eclipse brings a lot of excitement. You hear wow and cool, and maybe even goofy, like the glasses you have to wear in order to watch it.
Now we're getting to totality. This is great.
NASA broadcast the swath of totality from Mexico to Maine for those who couldn't be there. Sandy Hurst decided to watch the old-fashioned way, using an empty cereal box with foil.
You take the sun behind you, and it's going to come through the hole. And if you look in there, you'll see, if you have to manage it, and you'll see the sun on the bottom of the box.
And a good time was had by all.
And in our country today, millions of people all doing the same thing at the same time, very rare, so it makes it that much more special. Even more so to come together with your community and experience it.
This is my year. I could feel it, I know it, and so I'm putting that into the universe.
And today, the universe looked and maybe listened just a little bit closer. MG Perez, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.